So hi everyone, I'm your host for this hub. Welcome to the Why Veterinary is for You session. Today we have Calum McIntyre here with us. Calum, do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Yeah, hi all. My name's Calum. I'm a fifth year student at the University of Edinburgh. I'm involved in STEM as a STEM ambassador, and I'm also the president of the Association of Veterinary Students.
Great. So thank you everyone watching. Just some quick housekeeping rules. I'm sure you know, make sure all questions you put in the chat are relevant. If you have any questions that you need to flag up, just message in the chat and I can sort us out. And if you haven't already, please set up your Slido account so you can ask questions in the Q&A. But if you can't, just put them in the chat and we'll ask them near the end, hopefully if we have time. So, thank you and best of luck with the session.
No, brilliant, thank you. So, hello everyone. I hope you've been enjoying the conference and I'm really glad you can join us for this short presentation, which will hopefully give you a bit of an insight into what it's like being a vet. We'll also be chatting about what a vet is, does and can do. And we'll also chat about how you can be a vet and the process of applying to vet school. I've made sure to leave some time at the end to answer any questions you have as well. I'm also hopeful that once you've learned a bit more about the amazing work vets do, it might just inspire you to consider it for yourself. So who am I? I'm Calum, a final year vet student at the University of Edinburgh and president of the Association of Veterinary Students. The thick Glasgow accent, which I hope isn't too difficult to understand, is a bit of a giveaway. But I grew up in Glasgow and made the move to Edinburgh about 4 years ago. I had 2 years out from school before starting my studies at vet school, where I worked in several jobs, including sushi bars, in construction, and even in retail. I like to think of this as a bit more of an unusual journey, and I refer to it as the squiggly route, with twists and turns, a few bumps and blips along the way. Looking back, it wasn't the easiest or simplest route. However, I've loved my journey to vet school, and the time spent there has given me some amazing opportunities. But I wasn't always sure that veterinary was what I wanted to do. This first photo was me in primary school. At this young age, I can't say I really knew what a vet actually was. I knew they helped animals, and I also presumed they were brainy and scientific. But what else did the job entail? It was early days back then, but if you'd asked me, I probably would have told you that it just wasn't for me. This next photo is my first day of vet school. We have a tradition in Edinburgh of donning gifted white lab coats as we take an oath to protect animal welfare. It's pretty similar to the oath that all veterinary graduates will take as they graduate. But as mentioned, I wasn't always sure that this would be the path that I would follow. I ended up deciding that veterinary was my calling around about the age most of you listening probably are. Some veterinary students know it's all they want to do from a very young age. It really is their dream. Although, compared to many of my peers, I was late in deciding that veterinary was for me, and you may not yet know that veterinary is what you want to do. There's nothing wrong with either. Despite the brainy and scientific perception some may have of vets, I also didn't do very well in my school exams. I failed some exams and didn't quite get the grades in others. This meant I was well below the suggested entry requirements. I was told that I didn't fit the mould of a vet. I ended up taking 2 years out working, doing work experience and generally just learning about life. I learnt a lot, and on my second attempt to get into vet school with a single offer from Edinburgh, I made it. In addition, apart from a distant relative, I was the first in my family to go to university. It was also quite a surprise to my family, who don't have a background in science, that I chose to do veterinary. In the end, the grades weren't the decider. My background and upbringing wasn't the deal breaker. What counted was a passion and a determination to get to vet school once I knew this was the path I wanted to follow. It may have taken me 2 attempts and 2 years out of school between those applications, but my squiggly journey has been so worthwhile. This last photo is me and my trusty companion, Wilbur. He's taught me a lot about the impact an animal can have on people through the human-animal bond. He's an amazing dog. This was shortly after my 4th year exams and just before I started final year. For someone who was told they didn't quite fit the mould of a vet, I can gladly say I'm on my way to fulfilling my dream and looking to graduate next year. The important thing is, this could be you too. But you may be asking, what is a vet? I imagine many listening already have a few ideas of what vets are and what's needed to become a vet. Well, I'm going to test those ideas and hopefully change your mind. Did you think that you have to be from a certain type of background? Or did you think you needed to be brought up surrounded by animals, with pets, maybe even living on a farm, or roaming the countryside? When you thought of a vet, did you think vets only worked with animals? Did cats, dogs, horses, maybe farm animals come to mind? Did you also think of someone who was super brainy? Perhaps this is because you've been told that the vet course is super hard, or you need to be super smart. Well, here's the not so secret amongst us vets. If you have a passion for animals, enjoy science, and want to make a difference, being a vet is for you. You don't need to fit a mold to be a vet. Veterinary medicine is for everyone. When I think of all the jobs vets perform, the old expression, variety is the spice of life, comes to mind. Being a vet is a wonderful vocation with so many opportunities. But what do vets actually do? Well, I'd say take your pick. The examples on screen are just a small number of the varied and fulfilling roles that vets perform. Vets can be involved from everything from clinical work, with various species of animals and different specialities. They can be involved in public health. They may even be involved in teaching or working in scientific research. A veterinary degree also develops a huge range of transferable skills. You'll constantly develop, furthering everything from problem solving and communication skills, practical and knowledge-based skills, or even teamwork and leadership skills. Here you can see some photos of vets in clinical practice. It is such a varied role. The animals can be big or large, furry or scaly. They may even be wild. But even the day-to-day tasks are hugely diverse. Whether it's operating on a snake, saving a lion, or making sure a horse's teeth are in tip-top condition, no 2 days are the same. There's also always a great deal of satisfaction knowing you've made a difference to an animal and their carer too. As a future vet, it's been eye-opening to see the huge impact vets can have within their communities that they serve. Pets are an extension of our families. Farmers are hugely devoted to their livestock and farm animals. Because we all love our animals and are invested in their care, vets can have a massive impact on people too. For me, this is the real gem in the crown of all the work vets do. However, as I've mentioned, the opportunities don't just stop at clinical practice. A veterinary degree opens up doors and so many opportunities. Vets are also involved in conservation and wildlife, working with a huge range and variety of species of animals. This can even take you all over the world. Vets are absolutely crucial to safeguarding the preservation of endangered species. They're also involved in pharmaceuticals too, with at least one vet helping to develop the COVID vaccine. This is another great example of the transferable skills a veterinary degree can offer. Vets help to protect the safety of our food, and they're also involved in research. And additionally, we've now even had vets in space. A veterinary degree can take you the world over, and if you're lucky, maybe even out of this world. So why do people become vets? Well, the British Veterinary Association asked some current vets, and you can see some of their answers on screen. For some, it's always been the dream, with veterinary combining a love of animals and a passion for science. For others, it was variety. Some may choose veterinary for the lifestyle. Yes, some vets love surgery, but vets that work with horses and farm animals, for example, will spend a lot of time outdoors. But I think it's important to say that it's not all about the animals either. It's important you like people too, as whether it's a pet, a farm animal, or even a zoo animal, there will always be an owner or carer. As I've mentioned, this was the reason I embarked on my journey to be a vet, realizing that with every animal I helped, I could also make a huge difference to their owner or carer through the human-animal bond. A lecturer at the University of Edinburgh, where I study, has left a lasting imprint on me with the following expression: people don't care how much you know until they know you care. When I step foot in a vet's to do a day's work on placement, everything I do is founded in empathy and compassion. The grades and accolades aren't the be-all and end-all. Passion, determination, and a longing to make a difference are. This probably all sounds great. It might even sound too good to be true. But you might still be wondering, is veterinary really for me? Could veterinary be my calling? Well, every person you see on the screen is a vet. Vets can be NASA astronauts, Olympic runners, innovators, entrepreneurs, army colonels, even TV famous bakers. I'm hugely privileged to rub shoulders with these amazing individuals, but I'm even more privileged to be a part of the amazing profession we all share. To highlight this, I'd like to share a quote from Dr. Daniela dos Santos, BVA Senior Vice President and previous President, who spoke at last year's conference. We are all different with different backgrounds. There's no such thing as a normal vet. A vet is whoever you are and whatever you want to be. All you need to do is have a passion for animals and science and be determined. Our degree is just the starting point. Embrace each other and their differences. Encourage and support each other. Because being a vet is the greatest honour in the world. Now, if you take anything from this presentation, please take this quote. The privilege to be able to enter the profession I've grown to love for the people, the animals, and the difference that can be made truly is the greatest honour in the world. And there's nothing to stop you joining too. Well, hopefully you're now wondering how you embark on this amazing journey to become a vet. There are currently 11 vet schools in the UK and Ireland offering a veterinary medicine degree. And some universities may also offer veterinary nursing courses too. It can be a bit of a long haul, with veterinary medicine courses lasting around 4 to 6 years depending on your route of entry, but it's so worthwhile. Entry requirements do vary slightly between vet schools, so make sure to check them out and speak to the admissions teams at each university. Usually, for a veterinary medicine course, you need to sit science subjects. This is generally chemistry and biology, and these usually require A's at A level. Some courses may also require work experience, but this may have changed due to COVID, and it's worthwhile checking with the admissions teams at universities to make sure you're up to date on all the information. Most universities will also look at your personal circumstances when offering places and offer contextual offers if appropriate. But if you're looking at this and thinking, there's no way I can get those grades, don't panic. There's other ways in. If the grades got you worried, don't fret. There's some great widening participation courses out there. If your circumstances mean that getting the work experience or the grades will be a challenge, there's always another option. Make sure to check with the university to ensure you do meet the entry requirements though. It's also important to say that these courses are no different from any other veterinary medicine course. We all have the same dream to become a vet. It's just some of us, like myself, may have an alternative or squigglier journey. But we all start with the same aspirations and finish with the same degree. After all, a squiggly journey has led me to a presidency that now sees me representing my peers across the UK and Ireland and speaking to you today. COVID has also caused a lot of disruption, and universities will likely take this into account. Please don't be afraid to reach out and speak to the admissions teams, universities, and those with the appropriate information. There's also some great resources out there, providing information on how to apply, what's required, and what's involved in the application process. The Veterinary Schools Council provides a brilliant admissions guide. This is the go-to place that sets out everything budding vets need to know for their application. This is well worth checking out as it sets out all the information for entry requirements, work experience, and relevant contacts at each vet school. There's also the myvetfutures.com page, which has dedicated students pages with information on how to get into vet school and highlights with all the different career options in veterinary. There's some great articles from current vet students there with tips and advice, and even I feature in a couple of videos chatting about my experience in Edinburgh. Another great organisation is the British Veterinary Ethnicity and Diversity Society. This group run mentorship schemes helping hopeful vet students with their applications and UCAS personal statements. The British Veterinary Ethnicity and Diversity Society also have student chapters at most of the vet schools, and these can provide advice and tips too. I'd also really recommend checking out Animal Aspirations. This is an awesome student-led initiative running workshops to encourage people from diverse backgrounds to enter animal-related professions. They've got some great resources on their social media and website, and they may just have a session running near you. And perhaps you're interested, but not quite sold that veterinary is really for you. If so, check out the University of Nottingham's free virtual work experience course that might help you decide. So I thought I'd finish with some take-homes and final pieces of advice. These are all things that I wish I'd known when applying to vet school. There is help out there. Whether it's vets or vet students, we want to see the profession flourish. We've been through similar journeys. Make sure to reach out if you have any questions or if you need any advice. Make sure to speak to the admissions teams. They're the people in the know, and with the most up-to-date information can give you the best advice. Don't be afraid to get in touch to find out more about the courses and application process. There's also more than one route to vet school, and there's nothing wrong with whichever you take. And needless to say, believe in yourself and your abilities. So as a final point for today, I'd like to come back to Dr. Daniela dos Santos's quote. Being a vet, to me anyway, really is the greatest honour in the world. And if you have a passion and determination mixed with a love for science or animals, then it could be your calling too. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone's got any. Yeah, I'll be here if anyone has anything to add or say. So how hard is it actually at uni? I would say it's a course that is quite intense in terms of the volume you have to learn, but I was someone that at school kind of didn't make the suggested grades. However, I haven't struggled at university because I think, as I've kind of said in the presentation, that if you have a passion and determination, that's what's going to get you through. And I think if you have that love and passion for science subjects and for animals and making a difference, at the end of the day, it's going to be the motivation to kind of get through the learning materials. It can be difficult at times, don't get me wrong. There is quite a lot to learn, and it's quite a responsibility at times to make sure you keep up to date. But again, if you have that passion, there's nothing stopping you.
Let's wait a few minutes to see if anyone else has any other questions. In the meantime, I have one, if that's okay.
Yeah, no bother at all.
So I'm a medical student, but I love animals. So I had to, I actually struggled for, I think, a solid 2 years to try and pick between the two. And essentially, I did work experience at both places, and I just happen to prefer the hospital environment more. So I guess the question I have is, because I never do veterinary medicine, how clinical is it, and how go from, like, the theory behind learning about the physiology and the let's say, like, the biomedical aspects of humans and animals, when does it transition to clinical practice? Because I know for veterinary applications there was a huge component of the practical work experience that you get.
Yeah, it's a really good point and a really good question. So the courses can differ, but generally the courses will be between 4 and 6 years, and usually they're split as non-clinical and clinical, and the kind of transition occurs at the start of third year. So we do placements during our courses, which we call extramural studies, and generally in the first 2 years they're non-clinical, and that's kind of animal husbandry and on farms and helping with your animal handling skills. Whereas once you go into clinical years in third year, you'll be in kind of vet practices and vet hospitals, out on calls with vets, doing a lot more of the clinical tasks, and that can be everything from bandaging a wound on a horse, to giving an injection, to performing a surgery. So there's a huge variety there. And I think it's important to say that it's tailored to your learning, so you can book your placements and you can book your extramural studies, as we call it, to kind of meet the objectives that you want to learn too.
Okay, great. That was a really good answer, but I think that's really, really cool. I know it's really silly, but it was until I actually got pets that I realized that there were vet hospitals. I know that sounds really silly, shows how little I know. But I think there's so much. I think unless you're very interested in veterinary medicine, there's so much that is kind of unknown to you, and it's something I've experienced with people when they ask me to learn about medicine. So, were there any surprises that you encountered when you started the course, and as you're just about to finish it?
Yeah, I'd say there were a couple of surprises. So I didn't realize how transferable a lot of the skills on the course are. A lot of the things that I learned in my 2 years out working with the public and retail and the likes came in handy when I then had to deal with clients and work up with their patients and have difficult conversations. And it came as a real surprise that on the course that there are people from all different backgrounds and walks of life that kind of approach things in a different manner, and there's no right way or wrong way. I think with veterinary we always presumed, or I presumed anyway, that it would be kind of dead set, that there was a strict kind of rule book to follow for everything we did, and there is to an extent, but I think that it's an evidence-based profession that relies on proving that something's successful or proving something's worthwhile, and it's useful for those that want to kind of come at it from a different perspective and bring their own innovations.
Such a detailed answer. That's all cleared up. I think Caitlin sends in a question now as well. It's would you have to go back after, I'm assuming back to school, after finishing your initial course to specialize if you wanted to work with big animals such as lions or giraffes?
So yeah, it's a good question again. So when we finish our courses and graduate as a veterinary surgeon, we're supposed to be what's called omnicompetent. So that means that we can practice as a vet, and we're supposed to be able to treat all animals. So in theory, then you would be able to go out and work with big animals like lions and giraffes. But I think it's quite a niche field, and it may take a bit of experience and a few years after you graduate to build up that experience before you go into roles specifically there. But then again, you might be lucky, and you might time it right and come out and the job's there, and you can go straight into it. But you can definitely come out and graduate and work with the species of your choice. You don't need to go back to vet school to get another kind of degree or additional add-on unless you start looking at specialising in certain fields.
I got DM'd a question as well, so I think this is a bit shy. But the question is about how has COVID affected vet practices?
Yeah, so we've the whole profession really has been affected, just like all of society. I don't know if anyone listening has a pet, but if they take them to the vets, it's likely that practices aren't allowing clients in, and we're having to kind of chat to you over the phone, or we're having to meet you out in the car park and take your pet in. But the kind of standard of care and the prioritization of looking after those animals is still there, and that's first and foremost. But COVID has definitely impacted, and I think that in terms of looking towards studying, the vet schools have really made a lot of adjustments to make sure we still have a really good experience in learning, but also in student experience. Because I think it's important to say that vet school is so much more than just about becoming a vet. It's about developing yourself. So I join lots of clubs and societies, and I've made so many good friends through the experiences that I've had. So COVID has had that impact, but if you were to go to vet school in the coming years, I'm sure you would have a great experience too.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to wait 1 or 2 more minutes to see if anyone has any other questions, unless I suddenly think of actually I've got a 10 in my head, but that's going to actually go over time then. But no, thank you so much. And honestly, well done on everything you've done. We get every speaker's bios just as like before the conference comes in, and it's amazing everything that you managed to do as well. And I think something that you brought up in your talk, which I think really brings it home, is the fact that you're kind of advocating for like more inclusivity within veterinary medicine, and it's not just a certain type of person with a certain type of background who can come in and excel in this course. So it was very inspiring to listen to.
No, thank you. I think it's something that in the profession we're all trying to really advocate for, because I think everyone has something to bring, and we all have something to gain from creating inclusive cultures that kind of allow everyone to flourish and be themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's about 3:30, and I think the last question was up 5 minutes ago. Thank you so much for coming in today for this talk. It was fantastic.
No, Brown, I do appreciate it, and always a pleasure to be involved. Hopefully see you next year.
Yeah, see you next year.
Cheers.